On today's show, we'll talk about the Instagram slam. This has affected the biggest stars in TV and Hollywood.
Also, we talked about the best of 2014 in music and movies.
Those stories and more as Herndon Live gets underway. Hello and welcome to Herndon Live. I'm Jack Norcross alongside Mark Seaman. We've got a big packed show for you today, but we are getting started today with Cuba and America. They have recently formed a new relationship and a new era, in fact. A U.S. embassy could form in Havana very soon. Many Cubans will now have access to cheaper goods and products. American businesses and shops may begin to form in Cuba, and Cuba may begin to have more of an influence from the United States to stop their communist rule, which got cut off there. Mark, why is it so important that the United States and Cuba have gotten back together and started to form a brand new relationship?
Well, it's important because ever since the Fidel Castro regime took over from Batista's regime in 1959, the United States has put Cuba on an embargo, meaning it has no business relations, it has no political relations, it has isolated Cuba from anything to do with the United States. And since now about, say, 60-ish years later.
Yeah, many years later.
Yes, many years later. They are now going to reopen relations there, and it's a big change.
And Mark, we saw this kind of, the current the current leader is Raul Castro, but we saw an interesting kind of not bond, but an interesting connection when we saw at Nelson Mandela's funeral about a year ago, where we saw President Obama shake Raul Castro's hand. Do you think that the deal that they've been making, do you think it's been started that long ago?
Well, the deal that they were making actually may have started before Nelson Mandela's funeral, but they think that that the president shaking Raul Castro's hand at Mandela's funeral kind of was an omen for possibly the United States was maybe going to be less strict on Cuba, maybe
So a little foreshadowing of what was to come.
Foreshadowing.
All right, now, Mark, it wasn't just this easy. They had to make a couple of exchanges, let's say. The deal made was that the United States would receive Alan Gross and a Cuban spy who was working for America. So they got transferred to the United States, whereas 3 Cubans who were convicted of spying on the U.S. got sent back to Cuba. And this is a picture very recently of them meeting with the leader, Raul Castro. Do you think this was a good and fair exchange in order to get everything settled out?
Yes, and it's not the first exchange between between Cuba and the United States, because ever since the Cold War in 1959, there have been spies going to and from, vice versa. So this is not the first exchange between the two countries, but it is one of the most important because it is an exchange that was either a result from or may have resulted to the U.S. considering reestablishing a political contact and business contact with Cuba.
Right, and these are all good points to make, Mark. And so how far do you think the connection, how long do you think it'll take before we really start to have people maybe vacationing in Cuba and American products actually reaching Cuba? How long do you think this could take?
Well, it won't be tomorrow, but it probably will not take as long as people will think, because over the years of the Cold War and since its end, I mean, it's not as strict on Cuba as it once was, say, in 1962 during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But it probably will be a couple of more years until the relations are all good, until businesses start popping up, and many more Americans go visiting to Cuba.
Okay, so very interesting story right here. Our second news story that's making interesting talk is the Instagram. I called it the Instagram slam because almost all Instagram users are affected by this. So what happened is Instagram is currently in the process of removing deactivated and spam accounts. They, like I said, almost all of the Instagram accounts have been affected, and the company also claims that they also did a massive sweep in April. Mark, do you think this was the right thing to do? Because do you think it was good to take away some big fan bases of these celebrities, which we'll talk about in 1 minute?
Do I think it was good that they did this?
Yeah.
I can't really say because it depends on how big the fan base is. Like, for example, I think that removing deactivated accounts is a good thing for Instagram because in reality, deactivated accounts never really truly go away unless they're officially removed. And because of that, they're occupying empty space, let's say.
Right. So it may be affecting Instagram's interface by taking up more storage space in their computer systems, perhaps. And so we're seeing a lot of people saw this message, Mark, changes in followers. It seems as though you sometimes see kind of the younger children or whatnot, always posting like, well, if you post this picture, then, my Instagram pictures won't get deleted, So do you think that if they did post this picture, perhaps, do you think that they would lose any of their followers?
Well,
or is that just kind of like,
Well, as you said, all Instagram accounts have been affected. And I believe that some people, depending on how big of a following they have, will probably end up losing at least a couple of numbers. Like, for example, the massive celebrities, they're probably going to lose a chunk of numbers. But if, like, say you have an Instagram of, say, like 30 people that are frequent users, you probably won't be affected in a colossal way.
But let's talk about these celebrities who were affected. We have three big names right now: Justin Bieber, Kim Kardashian, and Ariana Grande. Mark, these numbers are pretty stunning. Let's take a look at this. Justin Bieber, 3.5 million followers he lost. That was 15% of his fan base. So also we have Kim Kardashian, 1.3 million. And Ariana Grande, too, 1.5 million. These numbers are stunning, Mark. What does Instagram do for all celebrities? What is it letting them do? Why is it so important that they have all these millions of followers?
Well, it's important because it really just keeps them on the top. Like, Instagram, what it does is it allows these celebrities to keep in touch with their fan base in a way. Like, for example, they get to take a picture of, like, say, ooh, I'm here before a concert or something like that.
Or a product.
Or a
Sometimes
product,
they get
yes,
paid
exactly.
to take a picture of a product and say,
yeah, product
"Ooh,
endorsement.
I love this product, yeah. Okay, so product endorsement. So these are stunning numbers. I know, Mark, personally, I lost 30 followers or so. I know Emily was talking earlier. She lost 50. So I think this was a widespread issue. But does this mean that that these people are kind of losing popularity? Because these are once again, these are the deactivated and spam accounts. So no one's really checking these 3.5 million or 1.3 million accounts.
Exactly. Because you said these are spam and deactivated accounts, so no one uses them anymore, they are not losing popularity. It's not affecting them.
All right, well, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. I know we'll be seeing you a little bit later on in the show, but we're going to get started right now we're going to get about to go to some weather. So we're going to have Emily Yen, who is joining us right now. Emily, what can we expect over this first part of winter break?
Thank you, Jack. I just want to say congratulations to all the high schoolers who just got out. Winter break is starting right now.
Right now, we're in it.
We have 2 weeks off, so it's good to know the weather and what we should expect. So let's take a look. So for today, it was highs in low 40s or 37 degrees, low 28. No rain, a little bit of a wind. So yeah, that was today's weather. Let's go to the next. Weekend, we're looking at a high of 40, low 29. Sunday, sunny, but 45 degrees and low in the 30s. Not bad for December, if you ask me, actually. And then also, the 7-day outlook that we have here is we have a little bit of ups and downs. We have sun on Sunday, a little bit of thunders on the weekdays, and then it's going to end off a little partly cloudy. We're going to stay in the 40s. We're going to get up to nearly 60 degrees on Wednesday, and lows sticking around in the low 30s, high 40s around. So that's it for your weather, I believe. Yes, and so just have a good time over winter break. We're not going to have a show in the next 2 weeks like we normally do, so you won't get any weather from me. So yeah.
I guess what Emily's saying is that you better check your own weather, but Emily won't be there yet. That's right. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We're going to take a couple of weeks off so we can enjoy winter break ourselves. Well, we recently sat down with one of the area sales managers of AT&T, and he had some products to share, some hot products, and even some great gift ideas if you have some of those last-minute shopping items to pick up. So let's take a look at that interview now.
Hi, I'm Ali Castre. I'm here with Ryan Joyce, an area sales manager for AT&T. And we're here to talk about gifts and new cell phones that you can get at AT&T. So what do you think is the best gift to give someone for Christmas?
I think a new phone is a great gift to somebody. We do have the new iPhones out, the iPhone 6 and the iPhone Plus. Bigger screens, bigger processors, better cameras on them. We also have a Note 4 as a brand new device, really large screen, great for watching videos, doing homework on that as well.
Yeah, so a large screen seems to be becoming more the trend. Are people coming out to get these larger phones? Because I know some people are like still not as portable since it's larger. Is there still like a huge market for large phones?
Well, we have a very fast data network, and people can stream video over their phones, and we have a lot of customers doing that now. So you have a lot of people going for the larger screen devices. 6 Plus has been very in demand, actually back ordered for a very long time since launch, and we're just starting to get some product in stores now.
Okay, so wireless devices also seem to be becoming bigger. What are some of the newer devices besides just like your Bluetooth?
Well, newer devices we have are a lot of fitness applications, or we also have companion devices like this. This is a Samsung Galaxy S smartwatch. One of the cool things about this, it connects to your phone, and you can make and receive calls off your phone number with it, send text messages, do email, but it also operates on its own. So it has its own SIM card and phone number. So if my cell phone dies or I left it at home and I go on a run, I'll still be able to make and receive calls on this. Also has a heart rate monitor in it too, so you can check your heart rate as GPS. It can track your run while you're out or just where you are.
So besides just fitness, is there any technology that you guys have that helps with schoolwork that kids can use?
I think fast network would be the primary thing. Tablets also great for doing homework. You get a larger screen, you can have a keyboard for it and type on it. The network allows you to get through the internet very fast, watch videos to do research, movies that could be in the subject you're studying.
Okay, also you brought in this cool gadget, if you would like to explain that.
Sure, this is the iFrog's Go Light 2.0, and it's a separate battery that can recharge your device 2 times on its own. Also has a flashlight in it, so it's something cool to keep in the glove box to charge your phone on the go if you don't have a car charger, or even at home if your power goes out, you have extra battery with it.
That is very cool. Also, is there any devices that help with weather and storms, since we are entering the snow? You might get snowed in, or you just want to know how the weather's going to be before you head out the door?
I think any of our devices would be able to tell you that. You have applications that can tell you the weather. You have the internet to do research on that as well.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for coming in.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we will throw it back at the desk.
All right, and welcome back. Sorry about that. I was just talking to another camera. Anyway, great to have Allie and Casey here, and as well as Emily. We're going to talk about dealing with family over the holidays. So, what do we know about dealing with family? What is the best way to take this on?
Okay, so I briefly mentioned this last week, but the best way to deal with your family is to engage. So just stay off your phone. They're really
Allie,
engaged.
Gotta shut up,
That
Emily.
is actually the worst thing when you're talking to someone and they just like this.
Yeah. Or like, and I know as like teenagers talking to grandparents, like it's just a comfort thing being on your phone. If like you get to a point in an awkward conversation, you're like, yeah, okay, and you like take out your phone and they're still standing right there, and it's kind of rude. But it's also easier if you just stay off of it. So I actually made a list of a couple things here.
There you go. We love lists here on
yes,
Herndon
we
Live,
love
don't
lists.
we? All right, go ahead. What do
So
we got?
first on my list is play with your little cousins. So, and this really depends on what type of person you are. If you like kids, then go play with your little cousins. Like make up games. It's not hard.
Yes,
like
if
kids.
you haven't quite
Yeah.
migrated to the adult table yet, there's no shame in hanging out with a little kid.
The
Right.
kids' table is more fun, in my opinion.
Oh
Really?
yeah.
There's no shame in flinging potatoes at that table, you know?
Actually, kids' table, from what I know, is usually a lot like maybe more awkward. The adults are usually easier, but they always get into politics. I don't know,
Right.
in my family. So.
Actually, yeah, that's my
We
family
don't
too.
even- we don't even
So
touch
my next point was if you don't like kids, then I would say go talk to the adults. But instead of talking about politics, talk about school. Like your family loves to hear about school and your grades and what
As
your
much as you
plans are.
hate about it, they
Yeah.
love to hear about
They'll
it.
eat
know,
that
sometimes.
up, yo. Especially if you're like, I'm excelling in this class. Don't tell them how you're failing in Spanish.
Oh.
That sounds like an alley
Okay.
problem.
Oh, fine.
And then next I have seek out older cousins. So there's always the older cousins who, and I know in previous years before I could actually drive, I would always kind of
Bond with them, kind of
Yeah.
like go, hey,
Yeah,
wanna
like be
give
like,
you a
hey,
ride?"
you wanna like take a drive? Like let's go to a store or something. Because older cousins, like they realize they don't want to be there the entire time talking to family, and
Right.
they'll like take small trips and like go out and come back. And if they feel like you're cool enough to tag along with them, then maybe they'll take you with you.
What if
Or
you're the
uncle.
older cousin?
I know, I
though?
am too, Allie.
Yeah,
I'm
if you're the older
oldest.
cousin and you can't
Oldest.
drive, then I'm sorry. You
I
just
mean, my
have to
brother
sit there.
can drive, but
Yeah.
See, my cousins are like way older like adults. So I don't really have
Yeah.
that middle ground. So,
So they're almost like kind of like an uncle, aunt kind
in
of
a way,
figure a
I don't
little
know.
bit.
In a way.
Yeah, they're that far. That's interesting. All right, what else do we have? Casey?
Okay, I have play cards. My family is really into playing cards. Like they play like
Board
spades,
games, too.
Gym rummy,
Huh.
solitary. Or is it
Solitaire.
solitary?
It's solitaire.
This is only
Solitary.
Whatever.
Yeah,
it's solitaire.
I love the apps. I just play solitaire all day long.
I like spider solitaire.
It's
Oh.
So yeah, my point
I'm
is
not a
play
solitaire
games with your
player.
family.
Board games are fun too.
Yeah.
Like apples to apples.
Yes,
That's
that's
a
That's
great
like my
game.
Good one.
family
because then
game.
everyone can play that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always
Also
a good
another
one.
good one, which is I haven't found to be as popular, but Who Knew? It's very similar to like to apples, but you get like a different. You have a bunch of cards, and you have to rate. There's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you basically get a topic similar to apples, but then the person who's judging gets to rate no, I don't think there is a topic, but they get to put down the one that they like the best. So like if you wrote
Oh yeah. Okay.
like cheeseburgers, and I said, "Oh, I love cheeseburgers," I put down that number 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's kind of like how well do you know your family, kind of. So that's always
Yeah.
a fun game in my house.
Also, like the logo game. We play the logo game.
Oh,
just-
logo.
the one- the app
Do you
on
play it
your
on your
phone?
phone?
No,
Or is there
it's
like
like
a
a board
board
game
game?
now.
Oh, there's
Oh, I'd be
And
good
me
at that
and my
game.
brother, we kill it.
Good.
Me and Aaron.
I know we'll be talking about some other games too in our
Yahtzee.
best of 2014, some apps as well. So that should be good.
What else do we got?
All right, we have, and this kind of goes along with, I know I said put away your device, but unless you're trying to like use it for good.
Engage.
Yeah,
This
it goes
you
back
sound
to
exactly
engage.
like my mother, Casey, because she's always like, well, okay, don't use your phone at the dinner table, but only use it if you're like using it to engage in conversation.
Well, yeah, and I mean, yeah, that's a
I
good
know,
point
I
actually.
know.
Like, if you're trying to kind of draw people in, like, again, little cousins love apps on your phone. Like, my siblings love Subway Surfers, and that new game Trivia Crack I was talking to you guys about. You can play that with people, like have people help you. And then 8-Ball Pool is a really popular one.
has a lot of apps.
I downloaded the Barbie app. It was the stupidest game ever. You literally click on the hair and it changes colors and goes, I want pink. Well, everything was pink. The thing looked, I looked like I was going to get blinded.
That is my favorite app.
The Barbie app where you like stylize the Barbie.
Hours on end.
Spend a little
Are
too
you,
much
are
time.
you serious? Okay.
I hope not. Okay, Allie.
That's why I'm
Let's move
failing
away from the
Spanish.
Barbies.
Spanish, just like doing Spanish. I'm like,
Spanish.
I need to dress my Barbie. Okay.
All right, moving on. Okay, so let's see. Okay, when all else fails and you really can't interact with your family that well, help in the kitchen with grandma, aunts. Just,
They love it when you
they
help.
do. They love it when you go into the kitchen. Like, any effort that you make to even help set the table if you're not good at cooking.
But
Just help.
you know, I don't know if anyone else's family is like this, but some of the women inside my family, especially, not that I'm being sexist or stereotyping, just because someone's gonna say that, just covering all my bases. Anyways, they'll go to the kitchen by themselves, and if I'll be like, you know, do you want me to help you like set the table? They'll be like, no, I'm trying to get away time right now.
Oh, yeah. That can
Actually,
happen.
yeah,
in
I
my
know.
family.
At my house around Thanksgiving, my grandma is like
"Don't help
really
me."
into cooking. No, and my stepmom is really into cooking. So when they're both in the kitchen, like, and my dad's like, you know, like, be a woman, like, learn how to cook. And I walked in there, like, he was like, ask
like,
them for
"Get
help.
out."
Yeah, I was like, oh, can I help? And they like looked at me. They were like, no. And
Oh.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people, are very, and you need to, that's another part of understanding your family, understand, who's really social and maybe could,
Not so much.
tone down a little bit. Or people, who just not so much. And, kind of egg them into conversations,
My whole
You
family
spark the conversation.
sort of this. It's a rowdy house.
Okay, Allie.
Alrighty. And then the last one that I have, it's kind of, as dinner's wrapping up and everything, bring movies to watch. Movies are always an easy one to just like sit down and just chill out.
And yeah, I know, Emily, I know we're going to have some great movies
Oh,
later
That's
on.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Is we're gonna throw those in there, and you can always go back to like classic Disney movies. Bring out the VCR, Be
Oh,
like,
boy.
let's pop that
VHS.
VHS in there. I almost said
remember
DHS. How about that? Allie, did you have an energy drink before you came?
No, I
You
still
seem like
have
it.
not
You seem
had
really
one.
wired.
I know, like,
I've
what is-
I've had a lot of food today.
Okay.
I had cookies for
We're
breakfast.
all just
All
a
right,
little
thank you.
excited
All right.
because it's the beginning of winter break.
No kidding. All right.
I need to
And,
go home and sleep.
yeah.
So thank you, Casey.
I'm on
with
like a
Yeah,
carb
your
thank
family
you guys.
segment.
Thank you,
That was
Alex.
great. Yes.
I have one last point.
I'm sure you
Communication.
Isn't that what we've been
That's
talking
what
about?
we've
Kind of
been talking about.
engaging.
No, but like
Engaging.
listen to the person. Don't be like me and just talk over people.
Okay.
Engage.
Yes. Okay. So
Engage.
that's all for our family segment. Next, I believe we have a health segment with Laja and Ritu.
And with Dr. Wendy as well. They're talking about stomach ulcers. So let's take a look at that.
Hello, I'm Laja Preddy.
And I'm Rita Preddy, and we're here today with Dr. Wendy.
Such an honor to have you on our show.
And she's here to talk to us about stomach ulcer and give us a lot of information about it, so we won't mistake it for some other kind of stomach problems.
So, what is a stomach ulcer?
Okay. Well, if you could bring up the diagram, please. And thank you for having me, by the way.
It's an honor.
Before we start, I did want to just discuss for a moment the anatomy, so I can explain what we're really talking about when we're talking about the stomach ulcer. So people come in, they say they have a belly pain, they have a tummy pain, they have a stomach pain, but they're really talking about parts of their abdomen.
Yeah.
And the abdomen itself goes from just under the ribs to down to the pelvis. And the abdomen includes all of these things. So it includes the stomach, it also includes the intestines and the liver and the pancreas and all the important organs. So I just wanted people to be familiar when we're talking about stomach ulcers, we're really talking about from the esophagus down to about here, okay? So as far as what is a stomach ulcer, you know, as you probably know, our stomach is filled with acids, and usually our stomach lining is able to protect itself from these acids. But sometimes the acid can break down and eat away a small part of the lining of our digestive tract and cause an open sore. And it's the open sore that we call an ulcer. So, and there's 3 different types of ulcers depending on where they happen. So, for example, an ulcer can happen in the esophagus, which is the hollow tube where our food comes through our mouth down the esophagus into the stomach. So you can have an esophageal ulcer, or you can have an ulcer in the stomach called a gastric ulcer, or you can have an ulcer here in the very beginning of the small intestine called the duodenum. That's called a duodenal ulcer, and it just so happens that duodenal ulcers are the most common kind of ulcers, even more common than ulcers in the stomach. So,
So the duodenum, isn't it like the opening, like in your stomach? Isn't
it's where the stomach ends and the small intestine begins.
Begins, right? Yeah.
So it's the very beginning of the small intestine. That's what the duodenum is.
Because like the fat, it covers our, it is actually what covers the lining of our stomach, so the acid doesn't go through it, right? But then doesn't that start to eat
Well,
fat?
the acid stays mostly in the stomach and digests food. There will be some acid, you know, that goes up into the esophagus and some that goes down. But the reason we get ulcers in this area is because this really is where the acids are.
Can you tell us like what causes this ulcer?
Yeah, there's actually several causes of ulcers. People often mistakenly think, oh, well, stress is causing my ulcer, or spicy foods are causing my ulcers. But really, in reality, they don't cause ulcers. They may worsen some of the symptoms of an ulcer, but they don't cause the ulcer. Believe it or not, we now know that a majority of ulcers are caused by a bacteria called Helicobacter pylori, or H. pylori for short. And so what this means is that most ulcers are caused by a living microorganism, a curable bacteria, which is actually good news, and it's really helped with the treatments. Another cause of ulcers is regular use of some certain kinds of pain medication. So some of these you will be familiar with, but aspirin is one of them. And then there's a family of medications called the anti-inflammatories, and they include things that the people listening will be familiar with. They include ibuprofen, which is also known as Advil, Motrin. There's another one called naproxen sodium. That's also known as Aleve. And these are all over the counter, and then there are other prescription ones similar to that, like Voltaren. So when people take these anti-inflammatory medicines and aspirin periodically or as needed, it's usually no problem. But what happens is if people take these medicines for weeks and months, this is how stomach ulcers are caused, and because these medicines are harsh on the stomach. And so people might be thinking, well, what can I take for pain? Well, it just so happens that Tylenol, which is also known as acetaminophen, is very safe on the stomach, does not cause stomach ulcers. You would, of course, want to use it as directed on the bottle. Now, there are just a couple of things that don't cause stomach ulcers but make you at a risk for getting stomach ulcers. Smoking increases your risk of stomach ulcer. Excessive alcohol use increases your risk of stomach ulcer. Also, if someone has severe physical stress because they're in the hospital, they might be on a breathing machine, or severe emotional stress. And also radiation treatment, which is for certain types of cancers. Any of these things can increase your risk of ulcers.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Like
I didn't
Tylenol,
either.
it's actually safe. Oh,
Very safe on the stomach.
Someone I know, like they suffered from the aspirin thing,
Mhm.
the stomach, it did
Yeah.
hurt.
Yeah.
So those medicine, they actually cause, there are actually like factors for ulcer?
If you like take too
causing-
much.
If you
Well,
take too much?
yeah, if you take, it would be, if you took them very regularly, they can definitely cause stomach ulcers.
So what would you say would the average percentage be for like people who suffer from stomach ulcer?
What would the average what?
Percentage, like how many people get it?
Oh, well, there's about 4.6 million people in the United States each year that get stomach ulcers.
That's a lot.
And 10% of every, you have a 10% chance in our lifetime to get a stomach ulcer at some point in your life. So, and men and women get ulcers equally, and you can get an ulcer at any age, but it is much less common to have ulcers in childhood and teenage. It's usually over the age of 45.
Oh, okay.
So we talked about the signs of ulcer, right? It's just like the stomach through, like chest through.
Well,
stomach.
first of all, I will definitely go over the symptoms of an ulcer, but I did want to make note of one thing. Most stomach aches are not ulcers. People often think, and they come to my office, oh, I have a stomach ache, it surely has to be an ulcer. But the good news is that is not the truth. In reality, most stomach pains are not ulcers. There are a few common things that cause stomach pain. One of them is heartburn, otherwise known as acid reflux disease, much more common than stomach ulcers. And 60% of adults get heartburn in the United States, and 10 to 20% of the entire population of the United States have problems with this. So this is millions and millions and millions of people. Another common cause of stomach pain is gastritis, which is an irritation of the stomach lining. Not an ulcer, but just an irritation. And then one other very common cause, this might surprise you, is constipation is a very common cause of discomfort more across the abdomen, and bloating, gas, cramping. So these are things that I see very commonly. Ulcers themselves are not as common. But you asked about what are the symptoms of ulcers. Most people with ulcers present with like a discomfort kind of right under the ribs here, and it's usually a burning type of pain. It's described sometimes as a gnawing pain, and it can be anywhere from the belly button all the way up into the chest. Some people just describe a fullness, not really a pain. And some people have no pain, but they may have unexplained weight loss, they may have appetite changes, they may have some nausea or vomiting. The interesting thing about stomach ulcers is that some of them actually, the symptoms get worse when you're hungry or when your stomach is empty. And these symptoms can go away for days or weeks and then come back and then go away and come back. And one of the telltale signs of an ulcer is if it wakes you up at night. If you have stomach problems that are waking you up at night, that could be a stomach ulcer. So those are now there's also a few very dangerous symptoms that you would want to seek medical attention immediately. Sometimes an ulcer can cause bleeding, and sometimes an ulcer can break through and cause a perforation or a hole in the intestine, and that can cause a serious infection. So if you had any severe sudden abdominal pain, or you had a rigid, firm, tender to the touch abdomen suddenly, or if you actually vomited blood, it could be red blood, it could look like blackish coffee ground material, or you can have blood in your stool, which would actually look blackish. So if any of those things happen, you would want to go to the emergency room. But the other symptoms that we spoke about earlier, of course, you would want to see your doctor. You would want to call your primary care doctor, get in, talk to your doctor, find out, what your doctor thinks is going on.
So like how are ulcers diagnosed?
There's a few different tests, and your primary care doctor can do most of these tests. And after that, your doctor would send you to a gastroenterologist, which is a specialist that deals with basically the whole digestive system from here down. And there's tests for the bacteria that we call the H. pylori. There's a breath test where you breathe into a container and it helps you determine if the organism's there. There's a test, you can test for it in the blood, you can test for the bacteria in the stool, and then the gastroenterologist can do some testing on the tissues if they do biopsies. And the other test, there's two more tests. One is called an upper GI series or a barium swallow. It is a series of x-rays that's supposed to basically show the esophagus, the stomach, and some of the intestinal tract. And you drink a thick white fluid that has barium in it. And when you take the x-rays after you drink it, it helps the ulcers to show up on an x-ray. And then the last test is the one that's done only by a gastroenterologist. It's called an endoscopy. And while you're sleeping, you don't feel a thing. It's very easy. A very small camera about this big on a long flexible tube. He puts the camera into your throat while you're asleep, goes down your esophagus, down here, and he lets him look all around the lining of the stomach and in the beginning of the intestine called the duodenum. He looks for ulcers, he looks for irritation, he's also looking for bleeding because sometimes they'll see bleeding and they'll cauterize them. And he or she can take a tissue sample to determine if the bacteria is present. So those are the tests.
So do ulcers eventually lead to death?
thankfully, the good news is no. They really don't very often. And part of it is because of the fantastic advances in modern medicine. I mean, we know how to diagnose these much better than we used to. We know how to treat them much better. It's only if somebody ignores the symptoms
And doesn't go to
and
the
doesn't go to
hospital.
the doctor, or if they're not listening to their doctor's advice, and if one of these serious things happen that we already discussed. But the incidence is 1 in 10,000 deaths for ulcers, but it is something that is quite treatable.
Because now they know that ulcer is caused by bacteria, so they can work on like killing the bacteria.
It's made a huge difference. I mean, just so that you know, if you don't treat an ulcer, it is most likely going to come back. And if you do treat an ulcer, though, especially if the bacteria is present, the chances of it coming back are so much lower than they ever were before. It's really amazing that, you know, knowing now that the bacteria causes it has changed everything for the better.
Yeah.
So is there like a certain way to prevent having ulcers?
You can prevent ulcers, especially if you've had problems before. You would want to avoid those anti-inflammatory medicines. You want to stop smoking, of course. You want to cut back to alcohol less than or equal to 1 a day. You want to reduce the stress and not drink a lot of caffeine, and basically eat a healthy diet. And hand washing, you know, as much as possible to try and prevent
Rehydrate,
transmission of the bacteria.
Bacteria.
And see your doctor if you're having problems. Don't wait.
Great. That's really good. I learned so much today. Thank you so much.
Thank
Oh, you're very welcome.
Doctor.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Movies and music.
All right, hello and welcome back. We are here with our panel today. We have Casey Molina, Mark Seaman, myself, Jack Norcross, Emily Ann, my co-anchor, and Allie Casseray. And we're going to review today the best of 2014. All right, we have a lot to cover here. So let's begin. Allie, you're going to start us off. We're all going to do different portions here.
I mentioned this earlier, but I got my finger in a bunch of different pies.
Yes, Emily, I want you. That doesn't sound exactly right, but I want you to get involved with all
I'm
of
good with media, movies, music, all of it.
Same.
My fingers in all sorts of pies.
Good.
Are they pizzas or desserts? So
When
don't
I
know.
think of that, I think of like dessert pies.
All right, Allie, let's
I
get
like
started
pizza
with your
pies.
top 10 albums
Anyways.
of 2014.
first, real quick disclaimer. I feel like everyone who watches this is going to disagree because these are more my personal this year. Last year I did talk about One Direction for like top songs and stuff. This year it's legitly how I feel, okay? Just disclaimer. Okay, let's get started. So at number 10 we have Morning Phases by Beck. My favorite track was Blue Moon. It was like a great album. And I reviewed it on a prior episode. But yeah, my favorite track right now from that is Blue Moon. And if you want to know more, go back in our archives from when I reviewed this album. Let's go. So this is The Pink Print by Nicki Minaj.
I like this one.
Yes, it was definitely an improvement from the last one, Re-Ups. But I'm not a fan of Anaconda.
No, is Anaconda on this album?
It is on this album.
Yeah, so this album, I haven't heard much from it. Did they release the full album? Or just,
They have released the full album. It
Okay.
is out now.
Yeah, I heard the one with Skylar Grey called Bed of Lies. I think they performed it on the Today Show a few days ago. So yeah, it's a good album.
Yeah, I like Pills and Potions. Yes.
Casey likes that song too.
Oh, thank you. Anyways.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you, Nikki.
No, I'm singing you because half the time people like don't agree with me on stuff. So I appreciate that. Anyways, on to our next one. You guys are probably not familiar with this album or this artist. It is LP. The album is Forever. And this album, I loved it so much, I bought it on vinyl. But you have to be a particular person to like this album.
What type of music is it?
This is actually very pop, but if you heard one of her songs, Into the Wild, it was on that Citibank commercial.
Oh. No, I'm sorry.
You guys would know.
Okay.
So search Into the Wild. That's not my favorite track off this album though. I like Tokyo Sunrise. It's a good track.
Okay.
Anyways, back to LP before we just jump the gun and go into number 7. On Forever and Now, the LP album that was on our last slide.
It's on now.
Thank you. Okay, she's really cool though. I encourage you also to see interviews. She has like a really deep voice talking. And then her singing voice is like crazy high. It's just really cool to see. And I just had to make a note of that. And she's just very suave, I think.
What would you, Devin?
Or
How would you define?
She said
I don't know. She just always like
Is that a
has
shampoo?
Suave?
Yes.
Yeah, technically.
It's also a word.
It's a word.
Really?
When
Word.
you say pop, do you mean like? I mean, because it's obviously not like popular music, or else we would have heard it on the radio. So
Pop
is it,
like, and it's like it sounds
alternative?
like
Like
that.
electronic,
It's not, you guys see
catchy.
me.
Wow!
It's very
you just
catchy.
believe it. It's fine.
But she's very unique in the sense that she basically brought the ukulele back.
I can
The
name a number of
ukulele?
people who brought the ukulele back a very long
No,
time
but I'm
ago.
not talking about what's his face that like is just known for that. Who sings I'm Yours?
Jason Mraz.
Yes, it's not like that. It's like there is like pop stuff in it, but it's very organic and it's like smart pop. If that makes sense.
So it's not dumb pop, but it's smart pop.
Yeah, you will love it. But this is Salad Days by Mac DeMarco. And I actually just
Salad.
stumbled upon this 2 months ago. And my favorite track is Let Her Go. I can't say as much about this artist because there's only a few artists I look into interviews with, but I love his music and I just find him to be smart and a real artist. And then our next one, I've also reviewed this album on a previous episode, Turn Blue by the Black Keys.
I personally love the Black Keys. I know James, our tech dude back there, he agrees. He loves
Tech dude James.
Yeah, he's our all-around tech dude. Anyway, but yeah, Black Keys. I really love this album. Turn Blue is really great.
Yeah, and I really like Weight of Love.
How
That's one
would
of
you
my
describe
Yeah.
the Black Keys? Would you describe them alternative?
You know, this album was really different from their previous
it had
music
more
to me.
electronics.
Huh.
Yeah, this one seemed a little bit more alternative to me. Their previous music is more like rock, kind of,
Okay.
to me.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
Now this is actually the band Against Me. I cannot show the album cover. For
I told
other
Alice she couldn't
reasons.
show it.
No, I knew it
You
was
look it
gonna
up
be-
on your
It's
own.
really, it's
Little.
sort of inappropriate.
It's a mountain, and that's my water.
Okay.
Anyways, the album that they released this year was Transgender Dysphoria Blues. It's a mouthful. But anyways, it is such a great album. They
Is this rock or?
it's like punk pop, I guess. But it's like good punk pop.
You know-
Because there's a lot of bad.
I
pop
realized.
punk
I don't know if you
stuff.
realize this, but I feel like punk is making a comeback. Like, you know, like there was the like 2000s that when punk was a big thing.
I'm
and then
gonna
recently I keep on seeing punk music like everywhere. I'm just like, where did this
Hmm.
all come from?
Now, my definition of punk is very different than I feel like our generation's definition of punk.
Probably, but I mean,
I do not think that Blood on the Dance Floor, all of these band shirts that I see like at school, you know, like Pierce the Veil, that is not punk to me.
Oh,
That
well
is
then-
pop rock.
really?
That is pop rock to me.
Okay, well then yes.
Punk to me is Black Flag, the Sex Pistols,
I like the Sex Pistols.
and etc. Anyways,
Sorry, we're talking about pop rock. We got stuck on pop rock.
can we please go back?
It is back.
Thank you. Anyways, I really like the track Drinking with the Jocks. I can't say any of the other titles, that's why I selected that one. But they have very
That's why it's her
punk
favorite.
themes.
Favorite.
But if you want something more PG, if you go back like a few years, their album from 2010, New Wave, is really good. The
not the
middle
old wave.
albums between this one and New Wave, they're pretty bad. but New Wave is a great album too. So yeah, check out Against Me. They're one of my favorite bands.
Question, like bad, like good, or bad, like bad?
Bad like bad.
Okay, I didn't know if you.
No,
liked-
this Transgender Dysphoria Blues is like bad, like good. Like it's like you'll feel like bad listening to it, but then once you listen to it, you'll feel good.
That's very strange. I've never had that experience with music before.
I've never.
I don't know.
Same
what
with
we're
the
talking
LP
about.
album. Like I'm like a little embarrassed that I like it, but I'm just gonna come out and say that I like it. 4 we have Sucker by Charlie XCX. Honestly, I'm gonna be very blatant. I did not select this because I loved this album. I selected this because I think she is going to do like big things in this upcoming year. I think she could be the next Katy Perry.
Well, you know,
She's
what
like
I
the
have
British
heard,
version.
She's
Yeah.
been writing a lot of songs for other artists.
Yes.
So she
Yeah.
has her name on
kinda
a lot
like
of
making
Iggy
her-
Azalea stuff.
Yeah.
She's like
Yeah.
almost a Jessie J, because I don't know if you guys were
Jessie
familiar with this, but yes, Jessie J was a songwriter before releasing her first album, Who You Are.
I mean,
Not who you
Yeah.
are.
I don't know. I feel like this is. I feel like Charlie. Sorry, go ahead.
The acoustic version of that song.
Okay. We have
So
3
good.
more to go to.
Okay,
and
I'm
we have
sorry
much
that
more. We
I'm
gotta keep moving.
passionate, okay?
If I just may say, I feel like Charlie XCX in the previous. Well, never mind. She sort of embodies a different kind of music that really embodies, I guess, 2014 entirely. Charlie XCX, one of her songs was on the Fault in Our Stars soundtrack, which we'll be talking about later.
Yeah.
And so she's just been she's a very good choice for 2014.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was on that movie.
But I personally, I'm not crazy about her music, but she really does definitely embody this year.
Number 3 is Ultraviolence by Lana Del Rey. I did review this one too.
I love this
favorite.
album so
Frida,
much.
right now, Florida Kilos. I don't look at the tracks anymore, but that's like my favorite right now.
I love this album so much.
I honestly have bought this album 4 times. I bought the vinyl, I bought the digital, and I bought 2 different CDs. Anyways, next one, Lazaretto. I did review this one on a previous album. It is incredible. It has brought vinyl back. I think that's another big reason why vinyl is back. Besides that, it's just hipster. And then, wait, go back. No, go to the next one because you didn't even let me say
All
how
right, good,
awesome
because we gotta
Jack White
keep this
is.
moving. Allie, we have so much more to talk
Saint
about.
Vincent, her self-titled album. She's been around since like the late 90s.
She looks like the evil queen from Snow White.
My next sentence was gonna be, I want to be her, but apparently since she's the evil queen from Snow White, I guess I can't.
It's like she's sitting in a bathroom
She
floor.
is swiggity swag, brah. She is swiggity swag. Okay, so this year a big music event was Nirvana playing with Lord, St. Vincent, and Joan Jett. I just thought that was the coolest music thing, and this album's incredible, even though it's no longer there. Rattlesnake is a great track, and yeah, no one.
I loved
Great.
that.
That
I
was
loved
so
that.
great. Thank you so, Allie.
was
That
good,
was
Allie.
great.
It was
We
good.
now know what Allie's top 10 are and what the world might share with her top 10.
Real quick, honorably
Oh.
mentioned, 1989, Taylor Swift's Blank Space is a jam. The rest of the album sucked. Like, Welcome to New
Oh.
York is the worst song
disagree.
I
ever.
agree.
Wait, what
I'm not,
song's
I'm
the
not a big
worst?
fan of Taylor Swift's
Welcome
new
to New
thing.
York is like the
Okay,
polar
I didn't
opposite
like
of what
that
New York
song.
actually is.
All right.
U2, their new album, I'm not even a U2 fan, but the fact that they just started downloading it on people's iPhones annoyed me.
Yeah,
That's-
and now
that
I
is
have it like a whole
interesting.
track of U2 songs.
All
I
right,
just don't
Allie,
like.
thank
And
you so much.
High Hopes by Bruce
Thank
Springsteen,
you.
that and
Thank
the
you.
Survivor-
Allie,
Thank
no
you.
more.
Okay,
done.
that was
Okay.
Wow.
Now
Allie.
on to Google.
All right, now we're gonna move on. We have still a lot more to get to. and
2014 is packed. What can
It
I
is
say?
packed, especially in the music.
No, it's
world.
sort of a downer year
Probably
for
not that
music.
much, though.
Yeah. All right, anyway, let's
It was a downer.
all right, so we're going to talk about, we're going to first do Google searches, then we're going to move over here and move over there. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about the top Google searches of 2014. There were some really interesting news stories, I felt. All right, so let's take a look. So some of the biggest ones were, I did it in pictures, Ebola. One of the top three, out of the top three, it was Ebola, but it wasn't just anything about Ebola. It was, do I have Ebola? That was one of the top searched items of 2014, as well as the missing Malaysian Flight 370, which has still, unfortunately, not been found. Still a mystery. People were really kind of getting into the whole mystery thing and what really happened to it. Also, FIFA 2014, that was a big event that happens every 4 years, and that was really fun and exciting. U.S. did pretty good and didn't make it as far as we would have liked, but they made it pretty far considering our circumstances. Also, the unfortunate death of Robin Williams, which I know we talked a lot about on this show. That was, I believe, the number one searched item. You know, he did so many great movies, and people wanted to remember that. Also, how could you forget the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge? That was basically the month of August right there for you. And,
Exactly.
but that was pretty interesting. There we go. There's a little.
Stuck in a moment.
There we go. Great. How great is that? All right. Well, let's go to yours right now. So, what do we have? Looks like we have a TV on the front of our
That's pretty
desk.
cool.
Yeah, that
I know it does
Yeah.
look good. Anyway, okay. So
disappears.
Emily, and Mark. I know you were really focusing on the movie
Yes.
talk.
But,
there.
but
What
before
do
we go straight into movies, I mean, this sort of ties back in with the Google talk.
Yeah.
One of the before we go straight to movies, I was thinking, you know, some of the top, you know, breakout stars of the year.
Yes.
I personally, I don't know, this is kind of a random, we didn't even talk about this, I'm just gonna jump it. But Ansel Elgort, I would know as, you know, the top breakthrough star of 2014, definitely. He made his star appearance he made his first appearance in Carrie, I believe, the horror movie that came out, the thriller that came out at the beginning of the year. Then he was in Fault in Our Stars as like the, you know,
The guy.
The guy.
Is
yeah.
the dude with the leg thing?
Yeah, he's the guy.
we
with the leg.
Casey and I, we did a review on the book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That
A
was
while
like
ago.
my favorite segment for such a long time.
Yeah,
book
I gave
review.
the I
was
had the
so
spoiler
It
alert.
was so
and
angsty too.
Yeah.
and then he was also in Divergent. He's going to be in the new Insurgent movie, and so yeah, that's just, you know, my note on the most
Yes.
notable star of the year.
Can I just say, Cara Delevingne is also doing a little acting.
Really?
John Green is
yes.
producing another movie. What is
What
it?
movie?
I know.
Is it based
I know.
on
It's
his
on,
book?
It's on another book. I forget what it's called.
Looking for Alaska?
No,
it's
it's not
not
Looking
that
for
one.
Alaska, but they're making a movie on that too. But Cara Delevingne is going to be in one of John Green's upcoming movies. And we're moving on, but I
No,
just wanted to mention that.
basically on the last, John Green is the new Nicholas Sparks.
All right.
totally
Yeah, but Nicholas
No.
Sparks.
We'll
Nicholas
get back to the
Sparks.
movies in one
Yes,
second, but
discuss
let's talk about
the
because I know this was a big movie, and Allie, you were a big proponent of this, the Lego movie. I mean,
my gosh.
Allie,
Lego movie is love. Lego movie
Okay, I
is
didn't
life.
expect
Please
that much
don't.
of it.
I don't want it
Yeah.
ruined for me.
Okay, you haven't seen it yet?
No, I've seen the Lego movie. I just don't want it to be associated with the Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life thing. But
Shrek is love.
Okay,
We're
okay.
moving on
Anyway,
here.
anyway. Also big Miss Elsa right there.
Ah.
Oh, she's nice.
face.
How about, I know, gosh. How about Let It Go? Let It Go was, and this was Apple's best of 2014. They came up with a list, and I just kind of picked out a couple of things. Minecraft was big. That was the number one sold iPad paid app.
yeah.
Played Minecraft. It
I
is
don't- my
not
brother
that
My
loves
brother
it.
plays it like he could
Loves
spend
it.
the whole weekend and never just leave the computer. Just play Minecraft. Over
Also,
and over.
something that I don't know if you've heard of, but it's very popular right now is the Serial podcast.
Yeah.
What's
I've
that?
listened to that.
It's
Yeah.
it's all about it's just about this murder that happened in the 90s in 1999. I've listened to a couple of episodes, and basically they don't think that the person who was convicted of the murder actually did it. So the final episode was just released yesterday.
spoil it.
I haven't heard it. I've only seen
Okay.
the watch or listen. It's not watching. It's different because it's a podcast too, which is
You have to
makes it
listen,
unique.
though.
That's strange.
I know. I'm not
No.
gonna watch it. But
No, but I mean, like, you have to pay attention to it.
I know. Oh yeah, you
Like,
have to be
you have
very
to
focused.
listen.
Yeah,
yes,
it's not like
like
reading
you
where you could
multitask.
go back over
Yeah.
and over.
But yeah. So that was definitely. I thought some of the best things that there was a couple of other things, and you can access all that online. But let's go back to your movie talk. And Mark, I know you have a brief countdown, don't
Okay.
you?
Yeah, it may not be brief, but
No, let's
anyway,
try
I have
to
a
go for
countdown.
that.
All right.
We still got time.
yeah, we got
We got
like
6 minutes.
Yeah. And so we're going to be starting with our. There were a lot of movies in 2014. A lot of them were bad, but a good number of them were good. A lot of bad movies,
Let's not
trust
be
me.
negative.
You know what,
Yeah, way
Allie,
to
we
go,
had
Mark.
this conversation before the show. We were just
True.
talking about all the movies that we hated this year, and we just compiled a short list of the ones that we do like.
Okay, girl.
Yes.
I got you.
Going back to the whole John Green, Fault in Our Stars discussion, number 10 we're going to be going up the list is The Fault in Our Stars, which was released in May of 2014.
I believe so. Yes.
Yes.
I didn't see that.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was based off of.
It was a really big deal. Now when I look back,
It
okay.
wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah,
it
it was overhyped, really.
Okay.
But, all right.
Way to go.
All right, and going with the whole motif of based off of teen angst and dystopia is Divergent, number 9. This one was kind of a little formula. All right, how do you say it?
Formulaic.
Formulaic. I don't know why I can't say it.
Just like how I can't say pessimistic. Okay. Anyway, keep
I
going.
was, I was not a big fan of that movie.
Divergent.
Yeah, and we reviewed that as like a family.
I remember that. Yeah.
And everyone criticized me for my awful camera work. It was not that bad.
It was
Yes,
really
it
bad.
was-
It's really
That-
bad.
It was as good as the time I did the soundboard.
Okay, next.
But Divergent, yes. Okay, moving on.
All right. Also, man, we could just never get away from these books, can we? Number 8 is Gone Girl, which is Gillian Flynn or whatever her name
You know,
is.
I'm sorry to cut
Yeah.
in, but Gone Girl, I heard, I haven't seen it.
My mom said it
But-
was a jam.
I heard it was really, really good, and I really want to see it. Ben Affleck starred as the main character, and then
Yeah.
there's the woman who played his.
Rosamund Pike.
Yes, she's become a bigger deal after that. Since that film, she's one of IMDb's. She's on like the star meter, what they
Yeah.
call. Ever since that movie.
Oopsie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That was a very big movie.
IMDb has a star meter. They calculate how many people look at each
Or
person's
page, kinda.
page.
Yeah, because of that movie, she's gotten like a bigger recognition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Listen to my mixtape.
All right. Yes, Mark. What's next?
All right, number 7 is a new movie that came out about a week or two ago. It's called Whiplash, and it stars
Miles Teller.
Yeah.
I forget the other guy's name, but he's in like the not State Farm. Not Allstate.
He's in the Sam Raimi movies as J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, I don't know. He
Spider-Man.
has J's.
Oh,
he has
the
lots
original ones.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that dude.
Okay, yes. So that's supposed to be a really amazing movie. It's on the top of the IMDb list.
Yeah.
It's what you're gonna notice in the list that we have compiled is that we have a lot of independent films.
Yeah.
2014 was
Season for more independent films.
definitely
To shine
it's
through.
and I expect 2015 to star a lot of independent films. So
Okay.
Okay.
One.
All right.
Okay,
So
we're only at number 6, so the hard drive may run out of space.
keep going, Mark.
Okay, number
Little bit
6, The
faster.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
That was a great one.
It was a
Yeah,
good
wasn't
movie.
it?
We reviewed that one too.
I don't remember mixed emotions.
Okay. She
Okay.
doesn't like it.
Number 5 is a comedy
Emma Stone
movie.
is Bay.
Okay. Comedy movie.
A comedy movie by Wes Anderson, The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yes,
okay.
very good.
Mark.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
Okay.
I love Wes
Number
Anderson.
Is this Birdman?
It's Birdman. Number 3
Okay.
is
Okay,
Birdman.
now, Allie, we have
Birdman
less
got to
than a
be
minute.
smart
Thank
or else
you.
it doesn't make
1 minute.
sense.
Thank you.
Okay.
Allie, love that too.
Number
Okay.
2 is
Smart.
Haven't seen
Boyhood.
it. Boyhood. Evolution of a Boy.
Yeah.
Next.
It was shot over 12 or 14 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
12 years.
12
Big
years.
deal.
Keep
It's
going.
crazy.
Okay. Number 1, it should come as no surprise to anyone, the Lego Movie.
And we've already talked about
Lego
that.
movie is
All
life.
right.
Lego movie is life.
Okay,
No.
thank you. Thank
Rock
you.
it.
Thank you so much to our members of the panel, Allie, Mark, and Casey. Thank you so much for joining myself and Emily here at the Anchor Desk. That's all the time we have for today.
Yes, and I just want to put out, hope you all have a great winter break, and also don't forget to go to the South Lakes Herndon game tonight at South Lakes, the varsity
safe.
basketball game.
Be
Yes,
safe.
don't drink
Be
and
safe.
drive. Make
And
smart decisions, you guys.
Don't
and
post bad pictures
yes,
on Twitter.
have a
Anyway,
blast.
that's all the time we have for today. We will see you after. We'll be taking a break, but we'll see you in 3 weeks, I believe, on January 9th is our next show, which will be celebrating our 1-year anniversary and Happy New Year! from Herndon Live.
And have happy holiday.
And
Okay.
almost anniversary.
Yes,
Almost
and
there.
Merry
Yeah.
Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. And we
Kwanzaa.
hope everyone has a great, happy, and
Feliz
safe
Navidad.
holiday. Good
Espero
night,
año
everyone,
feliz
and
Navidad.
to Herndon.
I don't know the song.